Welcome into It's Just the Show. I'm your host, Jay Stone, and with me, as always, is Corey Champney.
Hey.
And tonight we've got special guest Ashely Lowery with us. Ashely, how you doing this evening?
I'm good, man.
Man, thanks for coming out. We appreciate you. Ashely is a White County alumni, two-sport athlete, and played at the University of Kentucky. Graduated 2014
11.
from Kentucky.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
We just going to talk football. We days away from the 2024 college football kickoff. We've already had Georgia Tech versus Florida State in Ireland.
What a game. Now,
what a game. Moving on.
So where we work, a bunch of the people in front office are from Georgia Tech, and they were bringing this big Georgia Tech flag out, taking pictures in front of it, doing like the thumbs up and the little kissy faces. And so Jay and I, we're over there, we're looking at them, we're like, man, Ireland's a long way to go to get beat. And you know
Boy,
what?
were we wrong.
Were we wrong?
I was even telling them, man, I go to FSU. Y'all going to have a big hill to climb. We're a top 10 team. I go to Full Sail University. I don't go to Florida State. So on Monday, they were like, how's that FSU? I'm like, no, not Florida State. I was joking. Excuse me.
Ain't got no dog in the fight in that one, but
Yeah.
it was a great game though.
It was. I was impressed. The talent they've got in Atlanta right now is definitely superior to what they've been putting on the table in the past 2 decades, maybe even 3.
You think Deion's gonna eventually come and coach Tech?
I do. That's my theory. I think that Deion is having a rough time recruiting Colorado, and he had such an impact on Atlanta. I think any way that he can make his way back down here, he will. He played for the Braves and the Falcons.
Yeah,
Like
two-sport athlete.
He wanted to go to Georgia Tech. He says that. He has an interview on Club Shay Shay. Talks about how he wanted to go to Georgia Tech, but that was not prime time.
Yeah,
FSU, that's prime time.
well, that was when FSU and Miami were blowing up. You know, late '80s, early '90s. That was the rivalry, but that was the big. You know, at the time they were the Big East. But man, that was the place to go. But let's talk to our guest. So, what's it feel like to be here in the studio and being able to at Habersham Broadcasting Company, WCON in Cornelia, being able to get your story out there, tell your story?
Hey, man, it's a true blessing just to be able to have people still actually call and think about, you know, the impact that you were able to leave, you know, coming from a small town and being able to go off and play, you know, at a level like I did, and then come back and, you know, still be recognized and be able to give back and try to help kids in the youth.
Yeah, man. You know, I was telling you this story off air, but on air, when my wife and I were dating, I took her to a football game, kind of reminisce of my, of my 2 years of glory before I went down with knee problems. But she was just like, the joke that I always say is, she was like, hey, look, there's my cousin, there's my cousin, there's my cousin. I even have a cousins playing out in the field. I was like, man, you really had to marry me, not originally from here, you know? But the thing is, I got to see you play, and I forget who we were playing, but, we were playing Stevens County, and you just stomped them on both ends of the game. Like, I told my wife, I said, this kid's going to be something. He's going to play at the next level. He's going to go to, play at a big school. Man, the hands that you had at receiver, the touch, it was soft. And you don't say that about a lot of receivers, but you were going up, you're grabbing the ball with one hand, and it was just like the lineman didn't know what to do with you. And then watching you play DB, the way that you read receivers, and it's easier when you're a receiver playing DB because you can read the routes. You know what to look for. You know to look for their feet, watch their hips. You can watch the eyes of the quarterback, kind of see where they're going. It was incredible. And then your kickoffs, man, you were so explosive coming off those kickoffs and playing running back. That's my position. So the explosiveness you had when you got that ball, it was like stutter step gone. You hit that next level. It was just you and the linebacker. That linebacker was in trouble, man. I got to say that the speed and the agility, I hadn't seen an athlete like that play in White County in all my time there and all my time of watching. So, in my opinion, and I might be a little biased, but you are probably the greatest athlete to come out of White County in the last 30, 40 years.
I have to second that. I mean, I got a similar experience. I was sitting there with my little brother. It was it was a senior night, and the year after he graduated, so I guess that would have been your junior year. And somebody else played running back in the first half, and in the second half, you were playing both sides of the ball in special teams. And every time you made a play, Levi would hit me in the arm and go, "That's the same guy. That's the same guy. That's the same guy." Yeah. So I mean, yeah, man, it was truly something else to watch your athleticism on the field, and then eventually get to watch you on TV.
Yeah, it was when I found out you went to Kentucky. I was like, "Oh man, that is so big for Cleveland. That's so big for White County," because we hadn't really had anything except for like Billy Lothridge back in the day. You know, star at Georgia Tech, and they named a couple roads after him in White County. He was the biggest college football star to come out of White County, and then you come along and you change the whole game. And to be able to have that type of athleticism, man, and you knew how to play all those positions. It wasn't like you just had to fill in. You knew what you're doing out there. It was impressive to watch.
What's your take on that? Like, what's your perspective? Was it just like, all right, let's go, or were you always wondering what the way we're going to put you next?
I mean, I got to a point like with conditioning and stuff. Like we conditioned, and it wasn't like, all right, we're gonna have our skill guys condition more than our big guys. Like we all conditioned together as a unit, because at the end of the day, we all had to play together.
Sure.
And if I'm more conditioned than this guy, how can I lean on him when he's tired? You know, or if I'm tired, I can't lean on somebody that's less conditioned than me. But I mean, our coaches always it was just next play mentality, and like it's stuff still to this day that I talk to some of my former coaches, and they tell me different stuff. Like they knew when to, hey, we need to take him out for a play or two on this series offensively, so we can have him on defense. We need him to be able to return this punt to get us some yardage, you know, so we can set up good field position, have good field position, and then we can get him a breather and then put him back in 2 plays, you know. So, I mean, there's still stuff that I still learn and hear about, but, I mean, the biggest thing was just, I mean, for me, I knew at a younger age that I wanted to, you know, go play college football, go to the, you know, everybody wants to go to the NFL. Everybody has dreams. And, I mean, there's millions of kids with the same dreams and goals, but only, you know, so many can actually get to that point, which I was able to make it to Kentucky and play wasn't my first choice. I thought wholeheartedly I was going to Georgia.
Right.
Yeah.
And the longer we got in the process, like I had coaches that they ended up leaving, but the coaches that, you know, were there at that time, I felt like I was very high on their radar. And as they left and they brought in the new staff, which would have been Grantham and what was the defensive backs coach? I can't even think of his name at the time. But they brought those guys in, and they came in. They offered some guys that were actually buddies of mine, because we had been to so many camps and stuff together, and we competed with each other, you know, together against each other, whatever the case is. And we all went down to Georgia for junior day, and I felt like I had a pretty good performance, but they offered, you know, all my buddies. So
right.
I was like, man, that's crazy. So now it's kind of back to the drawing board. But I knew, like, the biggest thing for me, I wanted to be in the SEC, because I knew you get to the SEC, that's like the Mecca. That's where you want to be. It's the, you know, you got the NFL. Well, underneath the NFL is the SEC.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
that's right. I mean, I've said it before. It's the AAA, the minor leagues of the SEC, and the
minor leagues of the NFL.
So in 2011, the defensive coordinator was Tom Grantham of UGA, and the defensive line or the defensive backs coach, just had it here, Scott Lakatos or Lakatos. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's interesting that you were actually being recruited to go play at UGA and actually had meetings and everything with them. That's really cool. And that, do you know how many schools were looking at you?
I mean, there was like probably in the low 20s. But the thing is, if you ever have Tavares on here, ask Tavares. Tavares was like,
We're working on it.
I would go down to Athens on a weekly basis to go to the games and stuff as a recruit. And Tavares, like every time, we would link up because White County and it's kind of like distantly related. But he'd be like, "Dang, you down here all the time? Like you might as well." And I was like, "That's a goal." But, it never happened. But I was fortunate enough to be able to line up across from him.
Yeah.
And in the same conference as him, and that was a big deal.
What was it like? What was it like doing a having to guard a guy like that, having to be on a guy like that with that much talent? Was it could you tell right away that he's going to the next level?
I mean, it's different because like there are so many people, there are so many players and athletes that are all have the same goal. So it's really what, like, you got you might have 6:30 workout, 6:30 to 8 o'clock you're working out, you got conditioning, you might have film from 9 to 10, you got to have breakfast, whatever, go to classes, and then once those eyes are off of you, it's kind of like, what are you doing to make yourself, get the check? If you want to get paid, what are you doing when nobody's there, when you don't have to be at the facility?
Yep.
And that kind of, that's the difference. But like with Tavares, and like his whole case was, he came out of Habersham, and it was like, man, you ain't seen a kid that could sprint upfield and break in and out of routes at the speed that kid could, and then his hands like were just so pure. And I was like, man, this is crazy. But it's funny because when I left Kentucky and I went to I moved to Tipton back in I think 2016. I moved to Tipton, and I was with my old high school head coach Seagraves, and he was the running backs coach and like special teams guy down there. So we had a receiver that ended up going and playing at Minnesota. The kid probably ran a 4.7, high 4.6, low 4.7, but he was smooth. It was like just natural. And we tried to get him to run track. Like, man, if you get a couple steps faster, and he would come out there and he would practice, but he never came and ran in a meet. He would come and practice with us to get faster because I think he understood it, but he never ran in a meet. The kid went to Minnesota. He started Minnesota for 3 years. First round draft pick to the Ravens.
Wow.
And me and Coach Seagraves talked, and we talked a lot because I lived with him the first year I was down there. And I was like, man, this is probably the best high school receiver I've ever seen in my life. And he was like, what, you think he's better than Tavares? I was like, man, it ain't a knock on Tavares, but I was like, man, yeah, this kid's good.
What was the guy's name?
Rashad Bateman.
Rashad Bateman.
Get out of town.
Baltimore Ravens.
Wow.
That kid, man.
That's good stuff.
High school, that kid was special. And I'm talking like we were in the highest classification, so we'd go play lounge. We'd go to Lee County. Lee County come to us, Colquitt County. They didn't have an answer for this kid. They were putting triangles on him to stop him and still couldn't stop him.
You talking about that South Georgia football. I'm telling you, that's
that's where the trophy closets are.
Yeah, I mean
they build additions onto the school to put more trophies down there for state titles.
I mean that's the real Georgia high school football down there. That South Georgia football. I'm telling you, it's different. But so you go to Kentucky, and do you don't play your freshman year, do you? You do. You play freshman year. You're playing
8 games. Like 8 games?
Yeah,
special teams mostly.
I started out. I was on special teams in the beginning, and honestly, playing on the front line on kickoff return in college football, no matter who you're playing against, is probably the hardest thing I think I ever had to do.
Really?
On the football field.
I could see that being on kick returns.
You're
myself.
on a kick return on the front line, and they're asking you to turn and sprint 25 yards while you got somebody that's just as fast, just as athletic, with a different mindset or same mindset lined up across from you, and they're sprinting straight ahead to go to the ball, and you're sprinting and you're trying to relocate this guy and then get yourself in position to block them without getting flat-backed, pretty much.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they're running full speed and they're not stopping. We're having to stop.
You got to break down.
Yeah, I mean, and then you're having to, you know, get your hands in position to get a good block and get thick on them enough so your returner can get by. I think I did that for 2 games, and I was like, hey, this ain't for me.
Hey, coach.
So I started going back, and I was like, hey, man, I can return kicks, but I don't know if I can block these things like this. So I moved to the back, and I was catching kicks in practice and, you know, take off with them, and I had, you know, a little burst so I could catch kicks and punts a little bit here and there. And it was funny because the special teams coordinator was the guy that actually recruited me. So I was like, just, you know, and then some of the guys were like, man, let him do it, coach, let him do it. Because I would block back there too. I wasn't afraid to block, but on that front line, it was just a different story. It was like, I mean, you got, you know, 250, 260-pound linebackers running, you know, 4 or 5s coming down your throat in 25 yards. I'm like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this.
And they want to knock your block off and get by you.
Yeah.
Like, so you're not getting back up to block again. They want to take you out and then kill the ball player.
The scariest thing I ever had doing football in high school was do punts. Because that punt comes up, and then if you call a fair catch, you're hoping and praying that they see your arm go up like this. I did 2 arms when I call fair catch. I did this.
Yeah, like, please, God.
I was like,
surrender.
Don't hit me. I'm small. I'm small. Don't hit me.
So what I wanted to talk about is Kentucky 2014. You guys started out the season hot.
Yep.
Y'all go down to Florida in a triple overtime game. Talk me through fourth quarter and those 3 overtimes. What was that exhausting? Were y'all playing off each other? Like, what was that environment like?
Well, I don't know if y'all have ever been to a game in Gainesville.
No, sir.
Fans are nuts. I mean, it's crazy.
I mean, Kevin kind of touched on that a little bit.
But they were kind of quiet that day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at this point, I want to say we both were probably undefeated at that point. And their fans were.
Just kidding, Kevin.
Their fans were wild. And it was just to a point where I had been, it was my second trip down there. So, you know, my first trip, we had went my sophomore year, and I guess before halftime I was out. I had a concussion.
Yeah, you guys were coming into that game 2-0. You had beaten Tennessee Martin and Ohio.
Yeah.
The University of Ohio, not the Ohio State.
All right. So, yeah, we go to Florida, and we know the biggest thing with Florida, they're gonna be fast. You know, they might not be the most physical. They're going to be fast. So we were trying to go down and kind of on the back end match speed with speed. So we had different packages with different guys rolling in and out, so we could, you know, always have fresh legs on the field and whatnot. And I mean, we went in believing we could win, and you know, there's a streak. I don't remember how long the streak was at that moment, but you know, it was like you hadn't beat Florida in X amount of years. So we were like, man, we can beat them. We know we can beat them. So then when we're playing with them, and one of our kids, he was a freshman receiver. His name was Garrett Johnson. We called him Juice. The kid was from Florida. Florida never offered him.
He had a huge game.
Yeah, Florida never offered him. I want to say he hit Florida for 3 touchdowns.
Mercy sakes.
Will Muschamp walked up to him after the game and told him that was the biggest mistake he made. Was not offering that kid.
Good for him.
This guy Garrett Johnson, 6 receptions, 154 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
That's insane. Getting it.
Yeah.
He said, "I'll show you."
Yeah.
And Ashley here had 5 tackles in that game.
Yep.
So I mean, but the fact that you're going down into the swamp, you're going into a hostile environment because those fans are crazy. You know, and you take them to the limit. I mean, it is to the limit. You're going up against a team that Will Muschamp's coaching.
Traditionally is a powerhouse.
You have you have Jeff Driscoll as their quarterback. I think you guys had, was it Patrick Towles?
Yeah.
And you know, they had guys like Matt Jones and Kelvin Taylor on their team. You know, I didn't know that you played with Zadarius Smith.
Yeah, Z transferred. That was his first year there. He
Yeah,
transferred
he was
in that year.
Cool.
He was a good NFL player too.
You know, he
Still is.
still playing. And then Bud Dupree.
Yep, Bud Dupree. Yep.
Yeah, Bud. He's from Macon, and I mean, we had a bunch of car rides together. That's what we would alternate. Who was
You
driving
guys
back
had
and
you
forth.
guys had some pretty good players. I think Mark Stoops kind of came in and turned that. How was he to play for? Was he?
I mean, I enjoyed it. I didn't have an issue with it. I mean, it was just the mentality change of we had like a kid like Bud. Bud was a big time, but he was 3-star recruit.
Yeah.
Florida State offered him. Mark was at Florida State.
Yeah.
You know, and Bud turned him down because he wanted to play offense. Well, he got to Kentucky. He did offense all summer. We started football in the fall, and they moved him to defensive end in like the second day. Well, I think that worked out in his favor.
Yeah.
Because I mean, at this point, the kid's in the NFL. It's year 10.
Right.
So I'm like, the coaches knew something. But I mean, that kid, he's different. He's different, and I ain't seen nobody 6'4", 270 pounds run a 4.5 and 42-inch vertical.
And he ended up going to Pittsburgh, right?
That's where he got drafted in the first round, and then he's with the Chargers now.
Man, that's awesome.
But, you know, coming off this Florida game, you guys end up winning 3 in a row after that. You guys beat Vandy, South Carolina, and Louisiana Monroe.
Where in Vandy and South Carolina, those are back-to-back home games. You had a pick in both of those.
Yeah.
In the fourth quarter. Like that South Carolina game, they're driving to tie the game at the very end, and that's the Ashely Lowery interception. They don't get the ball back. Like, same thing with Vandy. You made that interception. Offense got the ball for over 5 minutes after that to run the clock out. That had to be a pretty hype start to the season.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we knew. I want to say there was the year. So this was my senior year. Okay, so 2 years we went and we didn't win a game in the SEC.
Right.
So it was like, we know we can do it. We got a point to prove, and we were turning the clock back, and it was like, all right, this is y'all can start it. We're gonna build a path, and y'all are gonna be at the forefront of it, and we're gonna turn things around, and y'all are the start of it. So, I mean, I want to say Avery Williamson. He graduated the year before this, and he got drafted by the Tennessee Titans, which was good for him because he's a Tennessee kid. So he basically went back home. And
I mean, you guys are throwing out the linebackers out of Kentucky, man.
Yeah, so Avery, I mean, and that kid, he worked and worked and worked and constant, and he was just a good, genuine person. It was like, you know, yes, sir, no, sir, and he talked to us, and he was always respectful to his friends and peers, and but we kind of went from we had one coach on the staff my freshman and sophomore year. He was actually the D coordinator. He told one of the kids on the team, like, you won't play unless Bud dies. And he was like, and even then I might try to find somebody else to replace you. And it's crazy. But that kid stuck it out. He stuck it out. He finished playing football, you know, at Kentucky. He graduated. Now he's got his own business where, like, he's a sports agent.
Awesome.
So it's crazy. One of the first kids that got drafted, his brother.
Oh,
really?
Wow.
Signed his brother. His brother got drafted to the Detroit Lions.
I love that.
Not this past season, but the year before.
I
love that.
That's awesome. And, you know, I'm looking at – I forgot that Mississippi State was a number one.
Yeah, hold on. That's another thing. I want to throw this out there that also your junior year, you picked off Josh Dobbs.
Yeah.
NFL NASA rocket scientist.
That dude don't have no eyebrows either. You know that?
I know,
He's
but
got that skin pigment.
Yeah,
he can't grow hair.
He can't grow no hair. Well, I mean, but
and then Dak Prescott.
Yeah,
like that's why they're number one. Mississippi State's number one that year. You had to play Leonard Fournette at LSU.
Yeah,
you had to rock against some big dudes.
That score to LSU. None of that was Leonard.
None of that was him.
None of that.
We were like, that MFer's not going to beat us.
You shut him down.
We
huh?
went out, and I want to say he had 13 carries for maybe 39 yards or something. Probably 3 yards a carry. But you probably broke a run, double-digit run here and there.
Right.
But we shut him down. Their backup running backs torched us.
Really?
The craziest thing I've ever seen in my life.
So I know that this might be painful, but that Georgia game that year, they put up 63 points.
I don't even know.
63 points, but that Georgia team, I mean, they had that three-headed monster of Chubb, Gurley, and Michelle that year.
They ain't even on there.
No, the 2013, their 1 year, 59-17. That's your junior
I
year.
got it. 2014, they lost 63-31.
Yeah, that was not even on there.
Yeah,
Chubb was. I don't think Chubb. It was Chubb and it was Chubb,
Gurley, and Michelle.
I think Gurley was hurt.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it was
This
Chubb,
is
Chubb
Chubb's
and Michelle.
freshman year.
Chubb and
Oh, that's right,
Michelle.
because Chubb got hurt in the Tennessee game, right?
Chubb and Michelle, and if Keith was there, he probably would have played.
Keith Marshall, yeah. And that was Hudson Mason? Was he the quarterback at that time?
At Georgia?
Yeah.
So after DJ.
No, it would have been after Murray, Aaron Murray.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was.
Aaron Murray
it
was
was
freshman, sophomore year, and then it was Hudson Mason, and then they went to who was it?
From?
Lambert. Was it Lambert? Grayson Lambert?
I'm way older than From.
No, I thought we were going up in time.
Oh, Grayson Lambert, right? Was he the next one after Mason?
Mm.
Or was it Eason? Was it Jacob Eason?
No, I'm older than him too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember who.
Oh, we're going back
Maybe.
in time.
I don't remember who.
This is the Georgia score that I wanted to talk about. Sophomore year, 5-point game in Athens. You had 5 tackles. I mean, you were all over the place. I watched a little bit of the highlights.
Yeah,
Y'all
the
started
2000
coming back.
The 2012 game.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, y'all were tight in that game the whole time.
So let's talk about it. You're a Georgia boy, and when you go into Georgia, like you're talking about the guys in Florida, are you even more amped up for this game than you would be any other game?
I mean, really, yeah, you are, and it's not like it's by choice. It just happens. It's like you come into Athens, you've been to the stadium however many times.
Yeah.
All your family is there.
Mm-hmm.
A large portion of your friends are there, and then like even people that you don't know. Like I've had people from Stevens County that I've never met in my life that I've come back and went to Georgia games since I graduated, and I've went to lots and ate with people or friends and whatnot, and they've walked up and approached me and told me like, "Hey man, I'm a alumni of Stevens County and yada yada, and I watched you in high school and kept up and followed you," and I'm like, "Dang, well, that's kind of cool," but it's also like you wouldn't know that unless you met that person.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, because even with all the social media nowadays, people can get on their phone and easily, hey, man, I've been following you for however long, but that.
I've been
not the same,
to
right?
Braves games, and I've been to football games where when the player's name comes up on the screen and it will say hometown such and such Georgia, they actually give the guy an applause. Unless he's on the Phillies or something like that, or unless he's a Gator, but because he should have made better choices in life. But anyways,
I'm a Gator hater.
But this game, Aaron Murray's the quarterback for Georgia, and man, you had 5 tackles and a tackle for loss in this game too.
But tell you about the significance of that game.
Mm-mm.
No.
You know who didn't play after that game?
Who?
For Georgia?
No.
Aaron Murray.
Oh, really?
Really?
Really? Huh.
I was his senior. Was that Aaron Murray's senior year? Was my sophomore year?
Sounds right.
Yeah, that's your sophomore year. Yeah.
He didn't play after that game.
You guys knocked him out, huh?
Click on the next one. On Georgia's next game.
Will it do it?
And
No.
see who their quarterback was.
Will it do it this way? I'm going to change the year from their page.
So we ran a blitz, and it got ran backwards pretty much.
Mm.
So the corner.
I got it right here. The next game was they played Florida. And Aaron Murray played in that game, but he was horrible. He had 3 interceptions. He's probably playing hurt.
No, so Aaron Murray, he graduated a year before me then. So this would have been 2013.
Oh, so
Because we were in Athens.
2013.
Because this was in Athens.
Okay.
And yeah.
Yeah, this game in 2012, your sophomore year was in Kentucky.
Bingo. There it is. Murray went out in the Kentucky game, and Mason took over.
Yeah.
And then Mason played against Georgia Tech.
Who hit him?
So I tore Aaron Murray's ACL.
You did?
Yeah.
Mercy.
And it wasn't like, I don't know. So like I said, the play didn't get across. So this guy didn't do his job, and the play busted. So now I'm just trying to get him down.
Yeah.
So I run him down and grab him. And when I grabbed him, I guess I grabbed him by his leg, and it pulled. Well, he stayed in the game.
Oh.
So nobody knew. Like, he jumped back up and just kept playing because at that point he knew it's my senior year, it's my last opportunity. And I want to say that same series, Zanarius Smith, he came back and hit him in the backfield. And at that point, that's when he knew, like, I can't go no more. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know you were the one who tore his ACL.
That was our record-setting quarterback for quite some time, Aaron Murray.
And then Fromm broke all his records.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that's awesome, man. I mean, you had quite a career, and just watching the highlights like on YouTube is not enough to like really explain like the little details like that. Like, we would have never known that that hit tore his ACL. And to hop back up from that, I mean, that shows he was a warrior, because when I tore my ACL, there was no getting back up from that. That hurt.
Yeah, I laid there and rolled around.
Yeah. But I mean, that's and like you said, you're playing next level football. You're playing SEC. You're going up against guys who are almost NFL ready, if not NFL ready. I mean, these guys are quick, they're faster. I mean, there's a reason why the SEC is elite. We just did a show that's probably going to come out the previous episode, I think episode 8.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, we did a whole thing about SEC and their dominance throughout, the history, and the fact that so many guys come out of the SEC, so many guys are drafted out of the SEC. It goes to show you like where the power lies in college football, and everything goes through the SEC. But to play at that high of a caliber is incredible.
I was just sitting here shaking my head because after we lose Murray, after he gets put down in that Kentucky game, he had not thrown more than 189 yards in that Kentucky game because Mason was the leading passer, and he had 189 yards. We go and lose to Nebraska in the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl, where Todd Gurley was the leading rusher and receiver. Go Dogs. Mercy.
That's when bowl games actually were bowl games.
Everybody went and played, and you got cool stuff.
Let me ask you that now. What do you think of this whole NIL and all the transfer portal stuff? Guys jumping. I mean, it's pretty much free agency in college football now.
We just missed it.
Yeah, you just missed it. It's like, man, where's my Ferrari? Where's my Porsche? You know what I'm saying?
We just missed it
because you guys were under like a lot of there were a lot of rules. What you could do, what you couldn't do. You couldn't take.
Thanks, Reggie Bush.
You couldn't take. Yeah, I mean, they did give him his Heisman back.
Yeah, because they changed the rules and they felt guilty.
I mean, you couldn't take any money from boosters. You couldn't have a no-show job. Which is what Brett Bomar in Oklahoma got in trouble for. He had a no-show job and didn't. But I mean, and then the recruiting violations on top of that and everything. It's really changed the game, and it's how well are these teams going to use their NIL money? But I do think the transfer portal jumping here and there, I think that needs to be.
They need to tighten down on that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I heard that they're now trying to do away with the spring transfer and only do it for around
like the holiday Christmas.
Yeah.
You get 30 days instead of.
So they're talking about doing away with the spring one and just doing the one in the winter, like after Christmas, New Year's, and then they think that'll shorten up, how many times people transfer. I don't think they need to put a cap on how many times you can transfer.
I agree. I mean, look at JT Daniels. He retired as a college quarterback. Who does that, man?
He did.
He's got a crazy jersey selection.
I mean,
in his closet.
It's a choice that if you're a 4 or 5 star recruit quarterback and you're sitting behind a couple other guys, there might be another opportunity for you at another school. That's great. That's really what the transfer portal's for. But now the NIL changes all that. If you're playing in some rinky-dink school that doesn't have as much money, and let's say like a team like Ole Miss or not even
A&M, somebody with money.
Somebody with money comes knocking at your door and says, "Hey, we got a Ferrari and a house waiting for you. Come play with us." I mean, I'm jumping in that Ferrari and going down to Mississippi. You know what I'm saying? But I see the good and I see the bad from like teams' perspectives. Now they have to tighten up. You're gonna have to talk to this kid and say that the reason why you need to stay here is because of this.
Right.
And while the other schools, you're recruiting kids not just out of high school now, you're recruiting kids from other programs now. And I think it's a lot harder to coach, and it's a lot harder to keep kids on campus and in school.
I agree.
You can look in Athens, and I mean, there's obviously a lot of stuff that goes into it, and there's a lot behind it, but I don't think Kirby pays any of those. They don't pay any of those kids more than $500. I don't think they pay those kids, like, no individual kid, because I want to say Caleb Downs, for instance. He was slated to go to Georgia. Everybody knew, like, okay, he's leaving Bama, he's going to Georgia. That's where he was going. How much money was he getting in Athens?
I have no idea.
How much money did he get in Ohio State?
Probably way more.
There you go.
I mean, Stoops said it.
But I can go to Athens, and I can get $500,000. Here's the thing: you ain't never had $500,000 before,
right?
So
Exactly.
why would you turn that up to go get $1.2 million? And you're gonna get this anyway because you're gonna make. We know for a fact, you go to Athens, you're going to the NFL.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Straight up. If that's what you want to do.
I mean,
and if you're not getting drafted, you're at least getting looked at.
Oh, yes.
You're getting invites, you know.
Chances are you're going to – Lewis Seen, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. This kid, he got drafted.
Yeah.
32nd pick, Minnesota Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
What have you heard about him since?
Nothing.
He broke his leg. Game 3 of his rookie year, he was out. He came back last year. He played 10 games. He's on the trading block.
Yeah.
It's the first-round pick, though.
But first-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
You got your guaranteed money. You were still in school when the NIL started, so you got some of that money too. I mean,
what are you complaining about, right?
Yeah, I mean,
they're throwing money at these kids now. Like, it was a point where we would get our check, and then like we go to a game. We're on the road. You'd get like a per diem, whatever. $15. I'm like, bro, what are we doing with this? We can't. You can't go get a full meal with a $15 per diem. So, and it's like, bro, this is crazy. But I mean, then I think toward the back end, we were getting an extra check of like $599 every. I think it came once a month, and that was like the last year. So. Then I want to say the rent money went up. Then they got, still were getting that check. If your parents were, if they didn't make a ton of money, you got your fast food, all that stuff. And now you get to the NIL, so you got kids riding around on campus, and they're driving cars as nice, if not nicer, than their coaches that make, $300,000, $400,000, $2 million a year.
Yeah.
Because kids are making that. Like I saw a thing earlier today with Travis Hunter. He's got a TRX. It's like one of one.
What?
And he's like, man, they were like, why you got a big truck like that? He's like, because the kid goes fishing. He likes to go fish. He's a country boy. He likes to go fish. He's like, so I can pull my boat. He's like, I don't drive my truck fast. They was like, well, why'd you get that with all that power? He was like, guys, I like it. It looks good.
Yeah, and he ain't gonna have no problem with the boat.
Yeah.
This is a well over $100,000 truck.
Yeah.
And that's not the kicker for me. You got a boat.
That's
Where I'm really like, wait a minute, man. I know how much boats cost. You got a boat in college?
And upkeep.
I mean,
it ain't like he's got a parking lot to put it in.
I mean, what are you gonna do with a boat? You got to pay all those docking fees and everything else, man. I mean, a boat is a hole in the water you throw money into. You know what I'm saying? But
you got guys out there that are grown men.
A kid that's barely 20 or not even 20 years old driving a $100,000 truck with a boat.
Yep.
I will say the good thing about that. You got kids that are. You come out of high school, you're a top recruit, say top 100. So naturally coming out as a top 100 recruit, you could easily be, in 3-4 years, you're expecting to be drafted. Then you turn back and you look at the Marcus Lattimores of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Lattimore had that crazy knee injury.
Mm-hmm.
And this is crazy because when we used to go to Presbyterian every year and do 7-on-7 and stuff like that, and we go up there for like a full week in high school every year.
Yep.
We always played their team, and I had no idea until I got to college, and Marcus Lattimore's teammate was on my football team, and we were in Missouri. I remember it, and it was the first year Missouri was in the league with us. We were at Missouri. And we got back on the boat on the bus to go to the airport, and it was like everybody had their phones out. Like, oh my God, man, did y'all see that? And his friend, and you knew like they were true friends. The kid started crying, man. And I'm like, what's up? And he's like, man, that's my buddy, man, that's my brother. And I was like, God, Lee, that's crazy, but
that was that compound fracture backwards.
Yeah,
I remember that was awful.
That was horrible.
And that dude, like, you got your Todd Gurley's, you got your Nick Chubbs, you got your Sony Michelle's, like Keith Marshall, all those dudes, Isaiah Crowell, all these dudes were good, like really, really good running backs. Marcus Lattimore was the man.
Yes, I agree with that.
He was it. Like,
and all those guys you mentioned, I mean, I think that Michelle's career was cut short with the knee injury. Mm-hmm. That one in college, I mean, he was never explosive again like he was before the injury. I mean, even when he went to the NFL, he was running the ball, but it wasn't the same, When he was in New England, it wasn't the same. And you could say the same thing about Chubb, too.
I'm curious to see what he's going to look like next season. He's already squatting 600 pounds. That dude's built different. Are you kidding me?
That guy's got the dog in him. But Gurley's another one whose career, he had a good NFL career, but man, that knee always came back. It always came back to haunt him, man. And man, I was really looking forward to his career because the things he could do, not just running the ball, but like coming out and catching the ball too out of the backfield, he could do a lot. He reminded me a lot of like a Garrison Hurst type player, but man, that knee injury, he just could never get over it. It dogged him for the rest of his career. But I think that what I was trying to get at with everything is like if like you said, if you're gonna get $500,000 and you have your choice of school, knowing that you're gonna get $500,000, if I'm Kirby, all I'm doing is holding up my hand with those 2 rings on it. It's like, look, we've done this before. We want to go back. You come to this school, and you can list off all the players that are playing at the next level. You go to Georgia, you're guaranteed to play for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, no kidding.
They get everybody from Georgia.
It's true.
But I mean, Ashley makes a great point. You want to be able
What's up, Cliff?
You want to be able to say that I played at Georgia, and it's like Georgia or Ohio State. I mean, what I mean,
do you remember Keith Wells?
Yeah.
Shout out, Keith, if you're out there, if you find this podcast, tell me good to see you. When I was living in Arizona, I ran into Keith, and he was still chasing the dream. I mean, I was 28.
Yeah.
He was still doing workouts with G League, Canadian League, CFL stuff, and he had gotten wind that the XFL was trying to make a comeback. He was still in shape. We went out in Scottsdale. He showed me some of his favorite places. Then he started showing me some film and what they'd been working on, what he'd been looking at. I mean, I don't think it's crazy that some athletes in the NFL now are pushing past 35 and still making a difference. Like when we were kids, everybody that was 35, it was like, all right, they about done. It's about done. But you, at the same time, you didn't get the 23, 24-year-olds starting yet. Everybody was 25 to 30 that was in their prime. Now people's prime is stretching in both directions. I think that's crazy.
It's the rule changes that protect the players more now. Because, I mean, you play back in the 80s and 90s. They're
even the early 2000s.
Yeah, they're trying to knock your head off, man. I mean, if you're a wide receiver and you're going out there and facing Sean Taylor, man.
No kidding.
You know you're going to get, jacked up. Mm-hmm. But, or Tori Polamalu or guys like that were out there to, knock your head off. That was their job.
I saw somewhere, speaking of Sean Taylor, they're going to build a statue.
Yep, they're building a statue outside of the Commanders Stadium.
It's about time.
And that was a tragic incident, but one of the best DBs, kick returners that I think I've ever seen.
Who did you look up to, and where did number 10 come from? I asked Kevin the same thing.
10 was, that was just a number that it was honestly like a local number that everybody, D.D. Tate. You remember D.D. Tate?
I played with D.D. Tate.
D.D. wore number 10.
I played with D.D. Tate.
D.D. was like the best thing smoking in White County. Like he was it. Like,
so I remember, because I played on the same team as D.D. Tate, right? This guy, you could hike the ball. The quarterback takes his 3 steps. 3 steps, he's already 15 yards down the field. I mean, he was gone.
Speed.
I don't think that he was always open. I don't think there was anybody in the division that could stop him. But the problem is we just didn't have the quarterback that could get him the ball all the time. But I just remember, like, when I was running the ball, Dede was always there laying down a block. I was like, where'd you come from, man? You're lined up on the other side of the field. But he was always open, and then when I got hurt watching on the sidelines, just watching this guy just fly down the field, I was like, man, if we had a quarterback that had an arm, we would have been unstoppable.
We were blessed.
Because that boy was pure, and he's another one that, he's had some things going on in his life, but, man, he was straight up just another gifted athlete, but, man, if we had the quarterback that could have gotten him the ball, I think he would have been another guy that would have come out of high school and would have been playing SEC football or at some big college, because he really did. He had the talent to play.
I'm always intrigued to find out where the jersey number came from.
It kind of it's one of those. I feel like it got kind of passed down. So like as far back like when I could remember, I know. We'd go to the high school. You go to a basketball game. Todd Cottrell's the coach. Todd's loud. It was exciting to watch the basketball team. Dede's the point guard. He's and then following Dede, there was Quint Moss, who he's at Forsyth Central now. He just left White County, and
Quint's my age.
Yeah, Quint. He wore 10 in football and basketball, and it was just like. Everybody that you hung out with or looked up to or wanted to be like, because I wasn't always big. I was smaller. So I'm thinking, I'm going to end up being smaller like these guys. But I would go to the court and play basketball with them, during the summer or on weekends and stuff. And it was easy to look up to these guys. But I feel like 10 was just a number that always was worn. Like,
it was always – so for my years at White County – number 10 was always the wide receiver 1. It was always the guy that was getting the ball. And so for me, it was always like, D.D. Tate had that number. Like the whole time I was in school, like he was a year ahead of me, but he had that number. And then I don't really remember anybody else having that number after him. But while I was there,
Ryan got it.
What?
Ryan.
Oh, that's right. Locklear had it, but he and I didn't get along. He and I actually got into a fight on the sidelines. Here I am on crutches, and this guy's telling me, get out of my way. I'm like, man, I'm a senior. Where's your respect? You know what I'm saying?
Some of them don't have it.
And because I was telling him about how he was, there was something he was doing in the game that kind of got on my nerves, and I saw it, and I was like, and I forget what it was exactly, but he got up in my face, and I was like, really? Number one, I'm hurt. Number two, I'm trying to help you out. And
What's up, Kevin?
And then number three, what's up, Kev? But and then number three, it's like, hey, I'm just here trying to help you out to make you better. But, you know, you're the guy they brought from outside to try to make this team better, and we haven't won a game all year. Man, my senior year, we only won one game, and we beat, like, I think it was, like, Chestatee, who was just starting out in their program. And
see, the best athlete at White County when I was in school we heard from across the mountain, you know, I heard about was Brandon Vaught. You remember Brandon?
Mhm.
He was tall, lengthy. I mean, he was a nightmare for a linebacker.
Yeah.
Like,
He
I remember.
played safety.
Did he really?
He was a safety. Yeah,
See,
man.
every time I ever
So,
heard stories, it sounded like he was on the
number
line of
9,
scrimmage.
and he was like, it was almost like you saw The Waterboy. Everybody seen the movie Waterboy.
Yes.
He was 9. He was crazy. He was a
Mhm.
headhunter.
Yeah.
That was Brandon.
What,
I mean, you watched him play, right?
Oh, so he was a senior my freshman year, so I played beside him some, and then like a receiver. So I had actually started out at receiver, and then I was one of the running backs was hurt, but he was a senior as well. So I'd get reps at receiver and some at running back, and then I kind of came into a zone as a running back more, and it was just more natural. So like all the receiver stuff, I had to work at it because it was like, yeah, I can catch a football, but I never went out and lined up and just played receiver. I always had played running back because, you know, I was fast enough to get away from people.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't hard to run. Hey, toss sweep, toss right. You know,
Yeah.
left, right, and hit the sideline.
Did you guys play that triple option in high school? Because that's what it was the first 2 years when I was there, and then we went try to pro set with Ryan Locklear because, you know, he kind of had an arm. But I just remember my freshman year, I'm third running back, and the two other guys get hurt in the same game. Coach looks at me and says, "Champney, you're in." I was like, well, "What?"
Yeah, right.
You know, I'm like 120 pounds soaking wet, and these are like big boys that want to eat my lunch all day long. You know, but I was shifty. I was good, but like he's saying, I thought that some of the guys I was playing with were athletic, but it's like nothing compares to some of these kids I see nowadays. And
It's
you know,
crazy.
I always heard, like, when I played, we had some guys that I really thought were talented. I thought Jake Cantrell was he was quarterback my freshman year. He was a senior my freshman year. He was great. The guy had accuracy. He knew he had perfect touch on the ball and everything. But for whatever reason, it just didn't pan out. But now I think he's the coach, right?
He's not coaching anymore.
No.
But he came back. So he went out to Delta State, and
Yeah.
he was he played out there, which he ended up playing like outside linebacker.
Yeah, he didn't even play
So
quarterback.
He and then he taught out in Mississippi for a little bit, and he came back. I want to say my sophomore year, but I'm not positive. It could have been my freshman year. But once he came back, I mean, just when he would go on the field with us, and we were, say, varsity defense is out there, and we're working stuff, and he would go to quarterback, or he would, you know, pop out at receiver, and just to see the different burst and how, you know, okay, he's explosive, he can still do this and that, but it was also one of those, like, I had known him because I'm obviously from White County. Some of the kids didn't really know him because they had moved in, or their parents were coaches and stuff like that, so they had to kind of get to know him and build a relationship with him. But I knew him, so I was like, you know, he was one I had looked up to too. So, you know, I would talk to him and get advice from him, and you know, you always want to kind of try to listen and take stuff in and soak it up when a coach is talking to you anyway. So, I mean, I kind of, once I figured that out, to like understand, like every rep was a mental rep. So if you're not in the game or you're not in on practice, pay attention and understand where to be and what's going on. And I mean, that's a big thing that my coaches harped on. So Coach Flowers, Tommy Flowers, man. He was big on, a line, a sign, your pad level technique. He was big on that. So for 2 years, he coached defensive back. So I was under him for 2 years. Well, you see Stevens County's defense is pretty solid. They have been for about the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Tommy Flowers' son's the D coordinator over there. So,
Makes sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, the guy knew what he was talking about, and it's crazy. I was fortunate enough to coach with him. He came to Tift, and, we worked down there for a couple of years together before I came back up. But it's funny that you brought up Keith Wells. So when I want to say the spring going into my sophomore year, we're at practice, and they got somebody out here in this all red outfit. And I'm like, man, I don't know who this dude is. He's got some size to him. He just in all red. They, let us meet him, tell him, oh, yeah, he's considering coming here and all this. It was Keith Wells.
Get out of here.
And the only other time I had, and this is what's crazy, too, because, he was at Gainesville for his senior season before he went to Ohio State. And he just had natural ability.
He did.
But it's just crazy because somebody with that kind of size and power and speed that he had at the high school level, it takes more than that to get to the.
It does.
And that's where I was just kind of like, golly, man.
I love Keith Wells. No, number one, bro, if you're listening. But teenager Keith Wells, that's why he didn't make it at Habersham. The work that we did was animalistic. It was military-esque. It was, Kevin Ellison kind of talked about it when he was on watching what we went through. The coaching changes after our senior year, the 06-07 season, to graduate in 2008, that next spring, the way things were ran changed. Like, I'm sure you experienced 2 days and maybe even midnight madness, like sleeping in the auditorium and getting woke up at 2 a.m. to go hit full pads.
Yep.
Not a lot of kids did that anymore. We're getting closer to 2010. We're away from the 90s. Culture's changing. Kids are dying on the football field in the summer. Well, our coach's solution was practice at night. So,
yeah.
And that's what a lot of teams did in the South, not just in Georgia. And Keith and I had lunch together almost every day our junior year. And I can remember going into the spring, I was like, are you going to stick it out? And he had already put on, coming out of the fall into the spring, had put on like 30 pounds of muscle because he was string bean before. And he was like, man, I don't know. I don't really like the way things are going around here. I don't like the way everybody talks to each other. It was a culture thing for him, and he didn't enjoy it. But our 2 defensive ends outweighed him by almost 100 pounds, Rhett Grinstead and Wesley Holtze, and they were both bigger than him. He was more athletic, but they were putting the work in. They were at those summer practices junior year. They had already been playing before Keith had moved there, all that stuff. And it just, the vibe I got was he didn't want to fight that battle of this is their hometown. I'm going to have to outwork them to get a starting spot. But I felt like he could have. If he put that work in, he could have gotten that starting spot. He could have been a rover back or anything, but he wanted to play DN desperately. And he wanted to go somewhere where he was going to be respected to start and where he could expect to start. And we all still respected the guy. We just, we were already friends with him. And then it was like, I'm going to go somewhere else. And then he ended up at Ohio State. We were all happy for him. But that ball club I played with, we had guys at Georgia, Oklahoma, Wake Forest, Clemson. Some went to Presbyterian and some other D2 schools, Georgia Military College. But it was just lit up with size, not necessarily talent. And I wished guys like Keith, who had the talent but didn't want to have to do the extra work, would have done it because we'd have been state champions. The people with that talent, if they'd have put the work in, that guys like me who didn't have the talent, we would have been state champions. And not everybody is for the bigger cause.
I was fortunate when I started in high school because I was under Coach Brookshire, and he had a running backs coach. You remember Stacy Allen? Was he there? So he was our running backs coach at the time, but he was also the ISS teacher at the time. But the thing was, I was not built like a football player. My freshman year, I was 120 pounds, soaking wet. Coach Brookshire and Stacy Allen, they saw something in me that no one else did. I don't even think I saw it in myself. They saw the ability I was putting in practice. Now, those practices back then, you're talking 2000, was hard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those were hard. Those were one of those, you're not getting any water till you get it right.
Right.
Type things.
Yeah.
And I would get knocked down, but I'm like, no, I'm gonna run this ball. I'm gonna run this play, and I'm gonna run through that linebacker or run around him. And I would be the one that would constantly get back in line and be like, nope, I'm running again. I'm running again. I just didn't want to give up. And, but they instilled into us that we're not going to be the biggest guys out there. We're not like Rabun County. We're not stacked up with farm boys, big old, country strong guys. But we're going to run around them. And we're going to run past them. White County always had the smaller guys, but they had speed. They just didn't know how to harness a lot of it. And that was the way our team was built. We had a lot of guys that were built with speed. And you talked about Jake, and I'm glad you brought him up because that guy helped me out a lot, especially with like cadence and, snap counts and changing things up on the line and how he would do it. And, if he puts the ball high in your chest, that means go one way. If he puts it more in your gut, you're going up the middle. I mean, just the different ways he'd hand the ball off and his play action and stuff like that. Or, running the triple option, you would know when you're getting the ball or if it's, the other back. It's just the small things. But the practices, I remember those summer practices. It's totally different now. But we were running those 2-a-days in the heat, and then you had football camp. You'd stay over there. They come in banging the trash cans. Get up, get up, get up. You're running. You're putting on pads and you're hitting and you're dead tired. But, man, that's how they tried you. But then when Coach Wilson came in my senior year, it was totally just a lackadaisical. There was no heart. There was nothing in it. It was just a job to him. Where these other coaches, it was all like, it was their life, and I take a lot of the stuff I learned from them. I apply it to my life now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, high school football is one of the greatest. High school sports is one of the greatest things you can have in your youth.
Exactly.
That will set a great foundation moving forward. Some people out there weren't blessed to have good coaching staffs. Like some people just wanted to make a paycheck. Some people were just doing it because their dad did it.
Yep.
And some people were not good with kids. They did it because it was an opportunity for whatever reason. But those of us that had coaches that instilled good morals and values and really talked to us about sacrifice, resilience, real core values, and made us understand what we were doing was for something bigger and made us look past, our toes to keep our chin up and look past the horizon, make plans and goals. That's the great thing about high school sports, and some of us are fortunate enough to play at the next level.
Yeah. Now, speaking of working with kids and everything, go ahead and why don't you tell us a little bit about Leap Athletics and what you do with that? It's an organization you started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I'm trying to think. I came back up in 2019. I was helping my cousin coach basketball, and a couple of the kids were 8th graders going into 9th, and they just were like, man, we want to work with you. And I was like, what y'all talking about? So they pretty much, hey, can we meet up and do a workout with you? So it started with 2 kids, honestly, and they're 2 and they both just graduated this past year from White County. And Kason Duval and Cam Wilson. Kason was an electric player. Now, he had an unfortunate football career in high school because he got hurt. He tore his ACL in track his freshman year, I want to say? Or it might have been his sophomore year. And then when he came back from that injury, he got hurt again. And last year, his senior season ended against Stevens County. He returning the kick, and he tore the other one. And I mean, it's just unfortunate for the kid and the work that he put in and the time that he put in to getting better and becoming an elite receiver. And he was a kid that he could catch it and make a cut, and he was going to get a house call. Yeah. I mean, I remember a couple years, his junior year, they were at Stevens County, and this was when Stevens County was throttling people 2 years ago. And I want to say the only touchdown White County scored, kickoff return, and he created it on his own because he did not go with the wave of players. He went straight down the sideline, and he made a move, and he was gone. But Cam was, I mean, it was the same way with Cam. He was one of those, if you had your pick of where to put him, you'd probably put him at running back because he was going to be the fastest on the field when he got on the field. It didn't matter. And straight line speed was incredible. Now, Cam's learning was he had to learn to cut.
Yeah.
He was undersized. So then we got a running back that's good, so you're going to be a receiver. So now I got to learn to catch. Mm-hmm. Well, I can do you one better. I can put you a defensive back and teach you how to play defensive back and make it easier on you. But then you get a concussion, a couple head injuries, and now they're like, well, we're only going to play you on offense. So, I mean, but those kids started there. Those two were two kids up here that I worked with, and then I ended up, it started word of mouth, just got out there. Yeah. So it got to a point where I was honestly using the high school at White County, and I'd just have the kids come up there because I was on the staff, and we would meet and we'd use the field. If it was raining outside, we'd just go in the weight room and do ladders, and I had hurdles and box jumps, and then some kids were like, man, we got to get stronger. So I'm like, well, cool, we can lift. Like, as long as your parents are good with it and they trust me, fill out this form. I, went and did everything right, got, business license and insurance, so I could help the kids. And it kind of just expanded. Well, then I got told, hey, you can't do this here. So I'm like, all right. I had somebody that I knew from school. Her sister graduated with my brother, and when I talked to her, she had a space available, so I started renting that space about a little over 3.5 years ago. And
is this over in Tessany Gap? Okay.
Yeah, so it's across the street from the high school.
The old 5th grade academy or whatever it was. Yeah.
So I rent the space from her, and I mean I got kids that come from Hiawassee. I got kids that come from Forsyth, and I work with kids, and I'll go to North Hall, or kids from North Hall come, and I take any kids. It don't matter what color shirt you wear, what the name on that shirt is. Like, I try to just help any kid that, if the kid wants to be helped or that parent wants their kid to be pushed, I try to help them all. See, because I just don't want anybody to get overlooked or it to be, well, this kid's playing because this is his name. No, I'm going to give you an opportunity. If you want it, you can go get it.
See, I love that because there's a lot of kids that fall through the cracks, going through a school. And they have a program like this. Like, you're pretty much a personal trainer and, personal coach for these kids. And you're helping them grow and become athletes. And now when they go into high school, they're prepared not just in one position but in multiple positions. And now they can leapfrog, and play where they need to. And where they would get overlooked in the system, in school, maybe behind a coach's son or a player that is playing for whatever reason, you got this program that helps those kids, learn and grow. And I think it's awesome what you're doing, man.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's a blessing because honestly, I felt like I loved being a coach. I enjoyed it. It was fun. You built bonds with the kids. But then the more I sat back and thought about it, it's like you're coaching a position.
Yep.
So how many kids play your position?
Mm-hmm.
That's how many kids you're going to see. That's how many kids you're going to reach.
Yeah.
Okay, I can go do this, and I got kids that play softball. I got kids that play soccer, football, baseball, basketball, golf, volleyball, tennis. I mean, kids that dance that, are dancing and they got to learn how to do this in their performance, or kids that are just trying to learn how to run in general. that haven't ever really, ran and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's beneficial, and I'm able to reach many other kids opposed to reaching 12 kids in a position group.
So it's not just football; it's multiple sports.
It's multiple.
That's
sports.
awesome, man. If you ever need a volunteer, let me know. I can help out, man. Yeah, I played baseball was actually my number one sport. I was a catcher, and then you can't be a catcher with bad knees, But yeah, man, you ever need a volunteer to help out, man? I'll gladly volunteer. Just let me know. I love what you're doing. I think it's a great thing, and because if I would have had that, when I was playing in high school, I probably would have been a lot better player. I probably would have been more focused. I would have been like, you can find the strengths in these kids and be able to pull it out of them. And not only that, they're coming to practice prepared, ready to go. They want to be the first ones in the gym, the last ones out, the first ones on the field, the last ones off, because you're instilling that into them. And I wish I had something like that when I was playing ball, because I think it would have made me so much better as a player and a person.
That makes two of us.
Yeah, so I mean, I love what you're doing. Hopefully coming on here, people will see it, maybe want to enroll their kids, and it's not just football, it's baseball, basketball, like he said, tennis, even dance, maybe you can help Jay over there cut some rug,
right?
I'm
going to need somebody to help me rehab.
But no, I mean, it's a wonderful thing, and it's something I would really like to help you out with, and if you ever need any volunteers, but the fact that you're coming on here, we're giving you an open forum to help promote and everything, not just because of what you've done in your career, but the fact that you're doing this and you're building careers for kids. You're giving them something to do, and it's keeping them out of trouble as well. You're giving them a chance to go in and practice and play a sport where they might be doing something else, outside of school. So
a lot less constructive.
Yeah, exactly, And it's not easy living in White County, man. There's not a whole lot to do. But you're, like you said, you're taking kids from all these surrounding areas, and you're instilling these core values into them, not just from an athletic standpoint, but from a life standpoint. And you've taken the coaching and you're really just expanding upon it, and it's awesome to see, So, hey, man.
So how do we get a hold of you? How do moms and dads, Facebook or Instagram?
Yeah, man, I got Facebook and Instagram. That's how most people reach out. Or, like I said, some word of mouth. It's crazy because my people from Hiawassee, they reach out to me through email.
Really? Send you an email.
And I'm like, man, it's 2024. Like they're sending me an email about training.
That's
like,
how far behind they are up there.
Why didn't you just send me a text message?
Here's my number.
But I mean, it's crazy because they know how to work Venmo and all that stuff too. So I'm like, well, why didn't they just text me or call me even? But they sent me an email. Which,
they probably don't have good internet service up there. Is probably what it is.
Maybe.
I golf up there pretty often, so I feel like they got service. My phone works up there.
Stuff.
How do we get one of those cool shirts, man? That's what I want.
So I actually just had an order go out last week.
Oh,
so
man.
But I do have. Actually, once these 80 come in and they get given out to the people that ordered them, I'll probably have to order more.
Hey, man, I'll let me know, man. I'll buy a shirt. I'll wear it.
Yeah, we'll have to do a swag exchange. We're getting some polos made, and now I see that. I like that. We might get some of those too.
Yeah,
with that logo on them.
Well, I'm all about helping out other organizations that are doing awesome things.
Absolutely.
And, living in the community, living in White County, and being a dad, even though my kids are a little young right now, but I appreciate everything you're doing, man. It's great. And it's kind of funny. You said the first two kids were Kason and Cam. My kids' names are Cameron and Kason. That's crazy. That really is. But no, just from a community point of view, awesome thing you're doing. It's really making the fact that you're doing it in White County too. It's something that it's going to help our county grow. It's going to make our county better, and it makes our community better knowing that there's good things out there. I know that, like, you had the highest of highs playing in the SEC, and you hit a low point, but you, like a phoenix, man, you came out of the ashes and you created this organization just by chance, and it's already grown to what it's grown to, man. So congratulations and good luck with everything, man.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate y'all having me on, and
Yeah.
I do want to give a shout out to my boy from Lumpkin that I worked with.
Yeah.
Yeah, go absolutely,
ahead,
man.
Cal Faulkner. He's going to Georgia Tech.
All right.
Hey, this probably be the only time I say this all year. Go Jackets.
Well, I got to say it too because my little cousin plays for him.
Hey, you know what?
He played at games with Micaiah Scott.
They're undefeated right now.
That's true.
They're undefeated.
I did want to ask this before, and I completely lost track of time. What is your Saturday routine like now if you get to watch college football? Because you grew up, I assume, a Georgia fan, and you played at Kentucky. Are you just like pro SEC? Is there a thing you do?
I mean, I honestly, Saturday mornings I get up and I go work with kids.
Yep.
I mean, because school's back in, they might be in sport or in season, whatever. So, like, I have to have Saturday mornings available to work with kids, but I try to be out by, 1 o'clock lunchtime. But like this week, obviously Georgia plays at 12.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
crazy.
it's like you don't want to miss that. But I normally watch with friends, where we can cook and just hang out and.
Same.
So you're a Georgia fan except when they play Kentucky? Is that what it is? Or?
No, see, all my friends are Georgia fans, and I watch, but I don't cheer for either team.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But when they play Kentucky, I obviously cheer for my team.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
But, I mean, I just like watching good football. I mean, I can sit there,
Yeah.
and I've sat in the film room long enough. I can sit there. I can tell you exactly what a guy was supposed to do or where a guy should have been, and stuff like that. Still to this day, and I enjoy doing that. And I actually help some football teams in the community in White County. Like I might pop out to practice one day a week, and they'll send me film of what a scrimmage looked like, and I'll give some feedback on, hey, maybe y'all should do this or change that. I
will say this: I go to school with some guys whose their kids are playing like in these peewee leagues and stuff, and they won a championship last year or the year before or something like that. So there's some good talent coming up in White County. But who do you got this year? I mean, they're going to the 12-team playoff format.
Hold on. For all of you who are on the live, thanks for watching. We'll be right back for episode 10. For the podcast, thank you for listening to episode 9. There's a taste of episode 10. We'll see you guys next time.